I think it's recording. Whatever. Fuck it. We'll do it live.
We'll do it live.
Warren S. Peter making a meme satellite. Currently, what day is today? The 20th? March 20th, 2020. Day 30 of Panda Watch, a.k.a. coronavirus. As of yesterday, California went on lockdown. I think New York State went on lockdown this morning. And you're in Atlanta, and rumor has it that the big dick of the federal government hammer is coming down there.
Oh, yeah.
In positive news, apparently Z-Pak, the antibiotic, when mixed with chloroquine, which is like a really old generic, like patents run out, malaria medication. If you've ever played Far Cry, he always has to take chloroquine. I'm butchering that name, I know I am, but fuck it, it stands. That's the anti-malaria medication. Apparently, when Z-Pak combined with chloroquine, apparently it has close to like 100% success rate at destroying coronavirus. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, so right now, Trump, and I always say this every episode, I try to keep politics out of this, and when I do, I try to stay as neutral as possible. So regardless if anyone likes him or dislikes him, I don't give a fuck. Apparently, he's trying to fast track trials of combining the two, and
that's good.
Yeah, so I mean, there's such an abundance of like negativity around it. Like, yeah, it's a bad situation, and like I'm not denying that. I'm not sticking my head in the sand and being like it's okay. But I figure I don't think circle jerking each other to how bad this all is gonna make anything better. So I'm just trying to look at the silver lining, and I'm like, yeah. Okay, I'm like, all right, trials of medication said that, hey, already exist. They're both old medications. We have decades of data on them. It's not like we got to run trials on them and, we all take it in 10 years. We're like, oh, there's a side effect. These are old as fuck drugs. The manufacturing lines are already in place. So right now, I think he or I guess his coronavirus response team, they got, or they're talking. I'm butchering all of this. Yeah, but I know it's rooted in fact. I just don't know the specific names. I know they're getting some big pharmaceutical corporations to donate their entire supplies to hospitals. So that's kind of cool. Yeah, and apparently they're gonna start taking because all the infrastructure is in place to produce drugs, except instead of producing like methadone and Adderall like we normally do, I think they're just gonna start putting into production this shit that could help tackle coronavirus. So I'm just trying to look at, is it going to work? Who knows? It could, in 10 days or 5 days, we could very well be like, well, that didn't work. But I don't know. There's such an abundance of like end of the world information. I'm trying to just find some, because we're all quarantined. It doesn't help to sit here and be like, it's fucked and we're all fucked. It doesn't do anyone any good. That doesn't do anyone any good. So like, I don't know, try to find the silver lining. Like, we got through 9/11. We got through the fucking Cuban Missile Crisis, and then once we got through that, a year later, that same president had his head blown off. Like we've got through that. Like like
I wasn't around for that one, but
neither was I. But I was listening to a book yesterday on like the Cold War, and I was just thinking like we got through the Cuban Missile Crisis, where we were, that fucking close to just literally. There are quotes that are now declassified quotes from like Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, where he's like standing on the porch and he's like, well, this might be the last Saturday that humanity ever has. Like, it was that serious. Like, starting to kiss your wives goodbye. Tell them how much that you appreciate having them in your lives. They were bringing priests to the bunkers because they were like, we're going to need some spiritual help because we're going back to the Stone Age. We were that sure it was going to be over. And then we got through it. And then less than a year and a month later, the president was assassinated. And we still managed to get through it without nuclear war. So terrible things, and I'm not trying to be like gatekeeping with it. I'm just trying to look at like the positive side. Like, we got through that. We got through 9/11 where 2 airliners full of fuel crashed into the World Trade Center. Like,
they released Cats. Cats hit theaters and we're all still
Exactly. But we don't, causation, correlation. We still don't know. Maybe that caused coronavirus. So let's not.
Have you heard of the?
When you said they released Cats or something, I was thinking like they opened all of like the pounds, like the animal
are everywhere. The movie Cats.
Yeah, that's brutal. I don't know. That was far worse than the Cuban Missile.
This cut. You know how like when they were doing the trailers for Sonic, how Sonic had teeth and 2 eyes versus like the one big thing, and people were just losing it. They're like, what is this?
Wow, fuck this.
There was an initial cut of Cats, and this is just all information from Reddit post titles. I read nothing.
Yes.
But
yeah, we don't fact check on Tommy's podcast. It's just pure.
It's not a fact.
You float the idea, it's fact.
There is a cut of Cats, according to Reddit, that they had CGI buttholes on all the cats.
Well, why would they do that?
And then they went back and were like, maybe we shouldn't release it with this, and it still tanked. And now there's like a change.org petition to get them to release the cut with the hundreds of cats, the CGI cats,
with
cat buttholes. They're all CGI cats. What if they did a cut of Cats where it was just everyone in these like green gimp suits with the ping pong balls all over them?
And but cut out where their butt is and just buttholes.
Yeah, just their butt cheeks hanging out.
Have you ever seen the Sonic with his butt cheeks hanging out? Have you ever seen that YouTube clip?
Well, that's a YouTube clip? Sounds like my fucking Halloween.
It's this kid. It sounds like a Saturday night after I've taken some ketamine. No, there's this kid on YouTube. I don't think he's an actual kid, so I don't think he's like underage. But he has this Sonic uniform, but he cut out the butt, so his butt cheeks hang out. And he has a whole channel where he's just like running around in public with his butt cheeks.
Wait, I'm pulling this up.
Yeah.
It's just Sonic with his butt cheeks hanging out.
Yeah.
He calls it butt cheek Sonic.
Yeah. There's no false advertising. He's telling you what you get.
It is butt cheek Sonic.
Yeah. Yeah. The original was like him putting it on and like running into his like mom's living room, and he like nails his shins on a coffee table and goes flying over. It's like 10-second song, and she's like, what the fuck? But just the beginning is so great. He's like, I'm so fast people don't even know how fast I am. And he gets up, and the entire time he's like kneeling down and tying his shoes, so you can't see anything but just like his knees and his face, and just like, okay, whatever. And then he turns and runs, and you're just like, oh, there's his ass. Just nails it.
I'm watching all these right now, and it starts and it's don't underestimate my fastness.
Yeah, you don't even want to underestimate.
I shouldn't have to explain this again.
Yeah, yeah. It's always don't underestimate my fastness. I think the first one was candid, and then he started just making them on purpose. I think the first one is like
got like 3.5 million views.
Oh, dude, it's not like it's
I like how the mom doesn't care about how his unbelievably fast son is showing his plump booty.
Yeah. But, I mean, you don't even want to underestimate how fast he is.
Never. Sonic goes real fast. Yeah. There's an indie movie. It's like a short film where this kid is in the UK or Scotland is dressed up as Sonic, and he's running around just rolling, and then he walks into some old guy's house and he's hung himself from NES controller cords. And he's dressed like Dr. Eggman, and he has a bunch of Sonic paraphernalia, and I have no clue how they cast a child for that, but some parent was like, yeah, this would be kind of cool.
What the fuck?
It's just, I don't know. It's really artistic. It's pretty good. I forget what
I'm down with
the main like message is. Something about,
dude, fuck all the remakes and fuck all the superhero movies. Let's start having dark movies. Dude, I always forget this because when I have on guests a second time, like I now know them, but I realize that there might not. Did I already introduce? Your name's Warren. You make satellites. Yeah. Go back and watch the other episode.
Satellite.
Yeah.
Wait, let me plug this real quick. We are beaming down memes from space aboard a tiny satellite.
CubeSat.
Submit all of your memes. It's free to submit your memes. You can go to memesat.com or let's go to space.com. Submit memes for free or email me at memesatellite@gmail.com.
I'll put
all your memes in space and beam them down on amateur radio so anyone can see it. We'll have an app. We'll be posting the memes to our website, to our subreddit on Reddit too, Memesat. And so if you like memes and you just think it's funny that we're destroying space as a domain, filling it with internet garbage, then please submit some.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, I can pin all that in the...
Oh, okay, awesome. I can shoot you a text.
Yeah. I just turned on some of these fans. Let me know if it's too loud. It should be quiet.
No, I don't like any audio change.
Yeah, I'll put all that in the comments, or pin the comment. Yeah. Because I've had on guests before, and we'll be talking for like 20 minutes. I'll be like, anyone who's listening has no idea who the fuck this is. Like,
this is just a guy chatting with.
This is what? Who is this guy? Who's this? Yeah. Yeah. Do you know Duncan Trussell, the comedian?
No, I don't.
He's always on Rogan. He's like my favorite. He was on like the original. He just came back on. He's just like the weirdest. I love him. He's my favorite. He is just he does not live in this reality. He just happens to be like interacting with us here. I saw him in Atlanta in 2015. He's fucking awesome. I got a picture with him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Transcended planes. Yeah. Dude.
But remember he had an idea years ago, and he was like, he wanted to start a company that produced stickers that with adhesive that didn't irritate like the skin, and he wanted to create cat butthole stickers, just so you don't have to look at the cat's butthole. Just put stickers on them. That's all. That's the end of that. I don't have anything else.
All right.
So, next topic.
I have nothing to contribute to that one, I'll be honest.
Next topic. Ding. All right. Speed dating. Yeah. It's just 2020. I bet we'll have flying cars. 2020 is here. Well, all right. Well, we're all quarantined from a virus from some dude eating a bat. But submit your memes here because we're going to beam over space.
Speaking of terrible things, cat butthole stickers.
Cat butthole. That's what brings the economy back from the brink.
For charity.
For charity.
Cat butthole stickers for charity. Today was a pretty monumental day.
Oh yeah.
I've been sitting down, cooped up, and I went and I got a used electric guitar, and I'm like, I just want to rock. And the guy at Guitar Center was like, oh, it's going to be like $300 to rock. I'm like, my rocking budget is not that high. And then I went home and I submitted our tax forms to become a charity because you can't have a clouded conscience when you want to rock.
Yeah,
you
can't.
You got to clear your plate. So in the next 30 to 60 days, we should become a charity, which means
501(c)(3).
Any money you give me is tax deductible on your returns.
Fuck yeah.
Which, if you ask me, that's hilarious. That's horrible. You could run a 5K for breast cancer, or you could send memes to space and give me $10, and it would be like the government looks at it identically in terms of spending. They're like, oh yeah, charity.
Charity's charity, dude.
Yeah, charity's a charity, and so I did that, and now I'm just
fuck yeah, dude.
Just rocking. I'm learning Paranoid by Black Sabbath.
Fuck yeah.
Iron Man, all the easy originals.
I'm taking my malaria drugs. No, I'm kidding.
I got you.
Yeah.
I like taking vitamins until I can't see out of my left eye.
That's how I always do it.
That's how I've been spending my quarantine. I see how many aspirin I can take before I start losing vision.
Panda Watch 2020.
Panda Watch Day 30.
Day 30. Panda. Yeah, man. It's But dude, a lot of those charities are fucking corrupt as shit. Like, isn't like Susan G. Komen like corrupt as fuck?
So
might as well send memes to space. Like,
is that you have all these charities. And because of the paper trail you need to leave to legally be a charity, you have to post a ton of your stuff online so that you're transparent. The government publishes all your like wages and spendings internally. It's kind of like if you have a state employee or a national employee, you can look up how much they're making for transparency. And even local to Atlanta, there are charities for homelessness where the president is taking home $750K a year.
That's insane.
And you're like, bro, you run for a while I was like, am I allowed to get paid in a nonprofit? And everyone's like, yeah. And I'm like, really? That sounds crazy. Isn't the point to give other people this stuff?
That sounds fucky, yeah.
But and then I'm like, oh, it makes sense if you're working full time for the nonprofit.
Makes sense you can have a wage. You have to
and
live.
then you're like, Susan G. Komen board of directors, like I think 2 or 3 of them taking home millions.
Yeah.
So next time you're running a 5K and you're not distracted by how much running sucks,
just remember
that none of that money is going to people who
just remember you're paying for some board of directors new S-class. Like,
yeah, no, that's wild.
Dude,
and
that's what I did with my charity. Right after my brother died, I started a charity, a 501(c), and I raised like $15,000 in 2 years. And I was going to donate to the National Institutes of Mental Health, or National Institutes of Health, and they had a mental health part. But yeah, I was trying to find I was like, what percentage goes to research? And I was like, everything they do is contracted out to like Pfizer and Glaxo. I was like, am I just dumping all of this into like some CEO's bonus? And so I ended up just going around to all the homeless shelters in Athens and just buying like thousands of dollars of like Costco, like literally, I mean, dude, like 30 plus like trips in my Civic full of like ramen noodles, toilet paper, socks, shit that they said they really needed. And they're like, these are the like homeless people come here every day, and like, you know, they're going for job interviews and they can get like, okay, they can borrow like a polo or something. I was just like, you know what, this is going to do more help for people's mental health, because mental health isn't just like a chemical imbalance. Mental health can also be you don't have a fucking job and so your wife left you. Like, that affects your mental health. So a lot of these homeless people, and as you know, in Athens, Georgia, it's a massive population of homeless. A lot of them are mentally ill, and it's not just that they need medical attention. It's also just like mentally, because it's like their life is fucked. So that's what I did with the money I made from that. I went and there's like walk-in like clinics there. I donated to them because I was like, fuck, I'm not giving this shit to Pfizer and GlaxoSmithKline. I was like, so I went and gave it, and people were like, why did you do that? I'm like, I guarantee that did more for people. There were people that came in, my ex-girlfriend now, the girl I was dating at the time, we would go in there and we'd bring, we'd go to like Goodwill or like Plato's Closet, and we'd buy all the cheap like polos and shit, and we'd bring them in there, and we'd go in like a month later and they'd be like, oh yeah, no, like whatever, this like regular here went to like do a job interview and he was able to wear like an Oxford or something, and like he got the job. Granted, it's a minimum wage job. I don't know how the fuck he's doing now. I have no idea. But to me, I'm like, that probably did more for people's mental health than, because like if he gets a job, that like I said, it's not always that you need Zoloft or a prescription. Mental health could be like, oh, I have money again, I can pay for rent. So
it takes the weight off. It's more than just.
So I was like, because I was looking at shit like Susan G. Komen and stuff, and I was like, how do they do it? And I was just like, or I was Wounded Warrior, and I was like, there are people profiting off that, and I was like, I don't want all this money that I've like made like off of like my brother's passing to like literally like of the 15,000, like $70 go to like buying some pipettes for some lab. So I was like, fuck this, I'm gonna do something that matters. So that's good. That's super good of you, man. That's something I'm realizing now too, right? Is just, I mean, it started off with just MemeSat, and then we're like, oh, we can make this educational outreach like I mentioned last time. And I've been talking to just tons of teachers. It's hard now because everyone's pretty distracted with how they're going to be doing things with whole global pandemic virus thing. That little
just this little thing that's kind of just so annoying. But
I hope in the future we're looking back at this episode and be like, dude, remember coronavirus? I hope that's all it is.
Hopefully.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Sorry, talking to all these teachers.
No, dude, no worries. But I have a buddy who's a teacher in Athens, and for people who aren't from Georgia or maybe don't know about Athens, Clark County, it's a pretty poor county. Used to be one of the poorest in Georgia, and it has a university there, so that has like a lot of wealth it's bringing into the environment. But all the high schools, I think Cedar Shoals and Athens Clark County, or Clark Central High School, they're both Title I schools. For people who don't know what that means, it means that they are performing the worst in the state on standardized tests. And so the students typically come from a pretty like economically challenged background, or there aren't a lot of parents around. And I talked to some of the teachers there, and it's really, it would be so stressful to be a teacher, man. Like, these people are so underpaid because you have kids where everyone in their family is dead. And so there's this 16-year-old, and it's going to be hard to get them to focus on anything because they're working a job. They're an adult. You can't talk to them like a kid. You need to respect them, and they need to show that respect to you, because no one's telling them what to do. You can't call home and say, hey, your kid was making trouble. Yeah. And then on the other end of that, there are kids who aren't able to go to like half their classes. I know, I don't know their name or anything, and I wouldn't say that, yeah. But kids who are literally homeless, and to get shelter in the local Salvation Army or shelter, they need to get there by 4 p.m. To get there by 4 p.m., they need to take a chain of buses to get there that aren't from the school. And so they need to leave school before the end of school. And these are homeless kids, right? You're trying to get mad at them and teach them about physical science, right?
Yeah.
And these kids literally, they don't have the capacity to do it, because they're like, where am I going to be sleeping tonight? Am I going to be safe? Am I going to be warm? And it's just crazy. It's absolutely insane. Crazy. And then there's nonprofits that attack that, right? Like, I'm not combating homelessness, but I'm doing more accessible learning online and just interactive learning. But I don't know. It kind of sickens me that there's this whole culture of business and nonprofit where they're like, yes, we're here to help people. And they really con you into believing them. And there are things in place that the government does, like audit and do all these crazy IRS checks, where they shouldn't be able to take home a $1 million paycheck, no matter who they are, right? Like, that's not me being a crazy socialist. Like, that's just, no, it's absurd.
Any charity is like, it's, you know, I think, and obviously, I mean, I have no business or economic education. So again, speaking completely out of my ass, asterisk, but you know, I think if someone was doing $1 million worth of work, like let's say you had Elon Musk leave SpaceX and Tesla and go, I'm gonna fucking run Susan G. Komen, and you have this guy, this CEO who is worth his salary, and he comes in, he goes in and he starts doing fucking charitable work, and gets like just turns into a finely oiled machine. And it's running, and it's like, but for him to keep doing it, you got to pay him $1 million a year, or else he's going to go back to SpaceX where he can make $1 billion a year. I get that, because it's like here's this dude who's worth it. But how do you define that though? But the thing is, like, that's such like a unique hypothetical case, which I'm sure has never happened. That chances are, if someone is like leaving their paying job to go do that, they're probably not even looking for the $1 million. It's probably like, whatever, his mom just died of breast cancer. He's like, fuck it, I'm gonna ruin breast cancer now. Like, that's what you. And
so that's it may have been unfair for me to say that people just go and take home a paycheck, because I'm sure they're skilled in like doing work.
Yeah, but no, what I just said is such like a niche hypothetical. I doubt it's every. I get the payment for like the worker bees. Like, doesn't matter how great a charity is. Like, at the end of the day, if you have to have like an accountant, like you have to pay them. You gotta pay them. They just graduated from UGA. They, whatever, they're married. They got a kid on the way. Like, they need their whatever, their $65K a year. But you gotta pay them.
Yeah.
I think the whole, fucking making bank. I just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that maybe it's because I'm just an absolute bum, and my bum superpower is just sustaining myself on bread and ramen and sleeping on floors. And I'm like, why would you need more than, like, I've gotten in fights with my girlfriend where she's like, get a bed stand. I'm like, who do you think you are with your fancy bed stand?
Who do you think
I'm too good to be on the floor.
Boy, I can smell the alcohol in your breath. Fuck you. Dude, I didn't have a bed stand in college. I slept on the floor I had my mattress on the floor.
I'll get a bed stand when I'm successful in some sense.
I'll get a bed stand. Yeah, you'll know I get a bed stand because I've sold out. Yeah.
This is what capitalism does. Yeah. When MemeSat launches and I got 7 zeros in my nonprofit's bank account, I'll buy a friggin' bed stand.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The nonprofit's gonna take off, and you're gonna get $1 billion in funding. We're gonna come back to this episode. You're gonna be like,
I'm horrified about that.
You're gonna be like, that whole no one should take home money. Like, I was young, I was stupid. I've earned this $1 billion. Just like completely really backpedal.
Charity.
Like, be like, we didn't know what we were talking about. We had coronavirus. We had a fever. Exactly. We weren't thinking straight. I'll tell you, Tommy, can you delete that video? Yeah, I'll take it down.
Yeah, dude, you'll be contacted by my lawyers.
Yeah, I'll be like, yeah, I'll shut it down. I don't mean anything. Like, it's easy to shoot that shit down when you're sleeping on the floor and I'm in a room above my parents' garage. It's very easy to idyllically be like, you shouldn't earn that and you shouldn't earn that. The reality is once it starts coming in, I'll be like, fuck you, this is mine. Peace out.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, but that's why I'm not going nonprofit. That's why I'm going full in. I say it every episode. I'm like, I'm trying to make money with this podcast. People are like, is it just a passion project? I'm like, it is. I fucking love talking to people. I'm trying to make money too. Like, I'm not, it's like, I'm not going to fucking lie to people. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, when I had my first meeting with my board of directors, what was that?
Trying to see if I could get you off. I tried to see if I could get you, knock you off. What are you, fucking 7?
First meeting with my board of directors, I was talking about all this outreach and all this stuff I was working on. They're like, dude, how are you going to get paid? Like,
yeah,
remember that you have to live. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to work at a coffee shop or something. They're like, don't be stupid. You're not going to have time to do this if you're working a side hustle. And then no one's going to give you fat grants or checks if you're not full-time on this. So double-edged sword. But being full-time in Athens, like we said, very poor county, not a whole lot needed to sustain that.
Yeah. It's
especially when you're me and you just
it's
bum around, man.
There's definitely like the idyllic wide-eyed fantasy definitely gets a reality check. Like, when I first started making my charity, I was like, you know what, maybe, because I had already gotten into medical school and I had gotten into pharmacy school. I was like, you know what, maybe I will do those. Maybe I'll reapply and I'll go. And I was like, and I can work on this charity like as an MD or a PharmD, and I can do a lot more. And like, as time went on, I realized I was like, hey, like, kudos, like, A for effort, like, your heart's in the right place. You got to be realistic about it. And I ultimately ended up disbanding my charity because it just started to make me depressed, because like I realized what I was working on every day was like in memory of my brother, and it just made me think about my brother more often than I probably should have. So that's why I ended it. But the reality is like reality started kind of knocking on the door, and it was like, this is great, this is fantastic what you're doing, but this whole like, I'm gonna sell because that's what I did. Like, I sold everything. I donated it all to the charity. I was like, I'm gonna get this thing to work. And like, you can run on that sort of adrenaline at first, but a year into it and your girlfriend's upset because you're not bringing home any money to help pay, and it's all you do and it's all you ever talk about, and it's like, we can't go out to the bar, I gotta raise money for this it gets to a point where it's like, this isn't realistic anymore. Like, and what happens is when you burn out personally, well, then the charity suffers. Like that spiritual guy Ram Dass, who just died last December. He was like 90. But despite being like a total hippie, he'd always say, he'd be like, the first thing you do, and you're expecting him to be like, give it all away to charity, start a commune. He'd be like, the first thing you do is take care of yourself, get a good night's sleep, make sure your bills are paid. But he'd always say, he'd be like, because you can't help others when your life is fucked. He'd be like, you can do it for a little while, but he's like, after a while you'll burn out, and then you're not helping anyone. He's like, keep yourself fed, have a good job, pay your debts, be in good standing with everyone. He's like, because you'll be able to help people. It'll be slow and steady. You'll be able to help people for decades and decades and decades if you're grounded. You have a good night's sleep, you're in good health, you're well fed, you're paying for your insurance, you're paying for your bed, you're not bumming off anyone. So that's what he'd always say. People would be like, give it all to charity. He'd be like, no, that's stupid. He'd be like, take care of yourself. And then he did something. He was literally in his 90s when he died, but he was a Harvard professor when he fucking took acid with Timothy Leary. Timothy Leary was like his best friend, and he ended up just starting some charity, but he ended up like curing like partial blindness in, I think, Nepal. Not curing, but it's like a simple surgery where they go in and like, it's like, there's some, I don't know the fucking medicine behind it, but there's some simple surgery where they have to like, maybe they're cutting out the cataracts. But he ended up improving the vision of something like 1.3 million farmers over the course of 40 years. And he used to say, he'd be like, but he'd only do it 6 months of the year. he'd be like, and then the other 6 months of the year he'd go back and like San Francisco and like take acid, and I think he was bisexual. He'd be like have like 100 partners, and he's like, but he's like, because of that, he's like, it was realistic. It wasn't I'm doing this forever. He'd be like 6 months it would be this charitable saintly work. He's like, and then I would party for 6 months, but he ended up doing it for like 45 years, and because of that, there are millions of farmers in India who now can like have vision. Like these illiterate people who like depend on vision, you know, because they're farmers. And it's like, oh, it's not like a selfish thing to like, you know, yeah, get yours. Because if you can take care of yourself, chances are you're going to take care of others. It's,
I think that's some good advice to come away with for sure.
Yeah,
so that's something I've been realizing through the process and getting screamed at by some older experienced people for not exactly knowing, because when you're young and you're dumb and you're just like, oh, I can work 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet. I'll be doing this the rest of the time.
Yeah, no worries, whatever.
I'm like, they're like, if you do that, then I want what you're having, because that's impossible for 99%.
Let me hit that,
But so that's what we're working on, and that's why, you know, the bright side of being stuck indoors and not having to go do classroom visits, while I can't maybe go speak to kids, doing grants, you know, applying for our 501c3 has been productive, and just kind of zoning ourselves for the next steps. I say it's kind of me, myself, and I, but we got a good gang.
Yeah, we're all here, aren't we, guys? Yep, we are.
We're all here. It's like SpongeBob. It's my crumpled up tissue, a partially broken ship, and a penny, and I'm like, the gang is ready. We are gonna save some lives.
We are gonna do this shit. Yeah, when I email people to try to get them to come on my podcast, I mean, normally it's just like a flat out like no, which is cool. Actually, no, the vast majority is just no response. Which is what I'm just used to. Like that's my baseline. It's sort of what I expect. So anything other than it, even when I get a response and it's a rejection, I still put it in the win column. I'm like, hey, they said something back. You know, it's one thing if you fucking, you know, make eye contact with the hot girl at the bar and she just looks through you. It's another thing if she just says like, can I get you a drink? And no, you're like, hey, at least she acknowledged I exist. You're like, hey,
I'm a person.
But check in the win column. Woo! Like, you know, she acknowledged that I exist in time and space, and that I do indeed composed of atoms. When I get a rejection, I'm like, fuck yeah. At least I got to them. I'm like, all right. They responded.
They took time to think about this.
Yeah, they took time to tell me to fuck off. Yeah, it's no one's ever been mean about it. But what I have had some people do is like, and could you, like, okay, sure, we're interested. Could you tell me about, you know, like your audience, how many people you reach? And I'm always like, well, I'm sitting at like 152 subscribers. Like, I go into like the YouTube analytics. I'm like, I reached this many people, and like, I don't lie about it. I say what I reach, and I'm often like, you know, that's too small. Like, this person has to schedule their time according. Again, I get it. You're some baller, you know. I won't name who I'm contacting, but I get it, because I benefit off them coming on my podcast. But for them, it's like, you know, what exposure are they getting? 150 people versus any other podcast, like bare minimum, they get like 25,000 people. So I get it. But the other question I've had is like, sure, could you tell me a little more about your team? And I'm like, you know, it's me, it's my buddy Tommy, Tom and Thomas, and we're all here. We're the gang. It's just like, it's me and like my schizophrenic self. It's just like, it's all of us. We're here and we're working hard together. And it's like,
you got the one guy on one shoulder, other guy on the other, and you're just like, yeah, gang.
I'm like, I got it. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna hurt this person. Like, you know.
I always get I'm trying to think, because I'm in college and it's just, I'm a very informal person when it comes to a lot of things. Whenever people online think I'm some big shot, I think, and it's very rarely, let me just say, when people are like, meme satellite, this guy is a winner. Like, very rarely.
This guy fucks.
Very rarely is anyone like, oh, this guy would be great to contact about something I'm doing. That has happened countable on two hands. But some people who run an after school program, I think in Connecticut or something, they called me they're like, yeah, dude, I'd love to hear about what you guys do. And I'm like, you guys. And so I'm on the phone. I'm like, yeah, I'll tell you about what we do. And my friend's like, Warren, who's we? And I'm just like, shut up, Michael.
You.
It's me. It's me. It's me and my friend who's in the room and not a part of it.
Fuck you, Michael.
I have this guy on speakerphone, and my friend Michael's there, so he kind of gets what's going on. But
like, Michael, you're part of the company now. It is really
funny. I think. Don't let it take away from credibility if it's just you grinding, right? Because one person super into it is going to be way more than 3 people who are just like lackluster.
Well, that's what I've found with. Yeah. Sorry. Keep going.
No. That was the end of my point. I just think it's funny when people are like, "Oh, tell me about what you guys do." I'm like, "Oh yeah, you guys, like me and the squad."
Yeah. I'm like me. It's like, you ever seen Grandma's Boy?
Grandma's Boy? No, I don't think so.
You seen that movie? It's like early 2000s. It's got Nick Swartz in it. All right.
I know him. Yeah. You're not that old.
Grandma's Boy? Old. You've never seen it? You don't know what I'm talking about? Dude.
Sorry, boomer.
It's a fucking dude. It's awesome.
If it's not a TikTok, I haven't seen it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on, Warren. Yeah, but he Nick Swartz, and he lives with his parents, but he's always like, yeah, my roommates, and so people are like, super nice. People are like, so what are you guys doing at the podcast? But girl, right now it's just me and my roommates. Like, this is the. People are like, oh yeah, this is my studio, and I'm like, yeah, there's just like, you can't see outside of it. This is the room above my parents' garage. Like, yeah, no, this is this is the studio. This is the lab. This is the mixing station. It's fucking, like fans and wires. It looks like a North Korea.
For anyone who hasn't seen it, Tommy sent me a photo of 3 laptop fans stacked with his laptop on top.
Yeah. Hey, the airflow's fantastic. Yeah, dude,
I got this rig. I got this Apple rig.
Dude. It's you want to come to the lab? Yeah, you want to come to the lab, dude? Come check it out. Yeah, it's just, there's so many wires and shit. It looks like a fucking Afghani IED. Like, it's just like, yeah. But hey, man. Yeah, but
whenever I hear the lab, I imagine some
fucking
really wannabe underground DJ. It's like, yeah, dude, I'm doing a show at the lab tonight. You want to come see me mix in the lab?
No, I think of the image you're trying to conjure up is some, Jay-Z's studio. Yeah, the lab. Come to the lab. It's
I could see it. Yeah, I could see some.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's wealthy rap star.
Yeah, but the thing about making doing this shit on your own is because I have started and failed multiple companies over the years, like t-shirt companies, clothes, apparel, designs, all sorts of shit. But I've always found that dude, it always finishes with me being like, God damn, I should have just done this myself. Because it's so much better to have one person who's really into it than anyone else who's just not into it.
That's also the double-edged sword of running a company, is you have your vision and you have your passion. Yeah. And if it doesn't work, you don't get bread on the table. And then when you try to so many people, and I'm not trying to dish on friends or anything who are like, oh, hey, how can I help?
Fuck Michael.
Right? But it's, when people say that, I think it's kind of a formality. They're like, oh, hey, man, if you need anything, let me know. And then they never expect it. But if you ever call on someone or a close friend who's like, yeah, I can help, very rarely will they be like, yeah, I can set aside time to do this.
Yeah.
And I found that the best way to lose a friend is to ask them to build a website, bro. I know.
Yeah.
I go to Georgia Tech. I go to a tech school. Everyone and their mom makes websites and apps. I'm like, oh, hey, I'm doing this thing. They're like, oh, yeah, man, I build websites. Let me help. They're like, not can I help? They're like, let me help. And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's do it. Let's get together and do it. I've had 4 different websites partially made. Thank God no one is buying the MemeSat domain names because I'm just...
Yeah.
And then they just ghost you. They're just at some point, it gets a third of the way done. And you're like, sick. And they're like, yeah, man, I'm going somewhere for the weekend. But after that, let's bang it out. Let's finish it. And then it's just nothing. I'm like, one of my buddies moved across the country. He was a decent friend. And he was helping me with the website. I'm like, hey, man, how's the West Coast? How's it going? it's just nothing. And I'm like, I'm not even asking about like how are you as a person.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, man. But
It's just
at the same
radio
time,
silence.
like I what I've realized like with this podcast was like I didn't want to. So many times I've gotten close to asking people like, "Yo, dude, do you want to help me like make this thing?" But I've realized like, yeah, no one else is like, this isn't their vision, so they're not amped about it. But what I finally realized is like, it's taken me years to be like, and there's nothing wrong with that. When like when I'm like, "Will you help?" and they're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it," and then they don't give me 110%. He's be like, "Man, fuck that person." But now I'm like, why would they give 110%?
Yeah, it's not their thing.
It's
right?
not their thing. It's not their. I'm not paying them. But it's also made me to start realize like, you know, people are like the CEO or the founder makes so much more money than like the retail workers. But I'm like, how many people are going there and like, I have a vision to make fucking Bob's Groceries take off, and how many people are like, you know, finish hitting the blunt and they're like, yeah, no, I got to go to 5 tonight, but then I'm off for the week. It's just their day job, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I've realized like, you know, that's what you're putting in, that's what you're getting out, and it's kind of like there's nothing wrong with like not wanting to like hustle 24/7. Like I realized that like what I'm doing, like throwing it all away, like living at my parents' house trying to fucking make this thing work, that's what I want to do. If other people don't want to do that, that's fine. That's just, and it's taken me a long time as a person to realize that like some people just don't mind having a 9 to 5. Like for me, the idea of working for someone else makes me want to fucking like drink bleach. Like I hate it. I fucking, it kills me. I'm like, that is death. But just because, you know, I have friends that do have 9 to 5s and cubicles, and they've got a girlfriend or a wife and a cat. I've like, for a long time I was like, fuck that life. But I realized like, maybe they're just chill with that. They're like, yeah, you know what? I don't love it. I don't hate it. But, you know, I got a wife I love. I got a cat. I got a new PlayStation. You know, I'm in a baseball league. Like, that's fine. Just don't call on them because they're in a different reality. Just like they're not going to call on you to be like, hey, you want to complain in the softball league? And you're like, no, I'm fucking trying to build a company. Like, that's fine.
Just trying to make an empire.
Exactly. Yeah. Link, synergy, you know, network. No, just understand that. And that's what I've realized is like, oh, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Let them live their life. I'll live my life. And just maintain friendship. Insightful. Just maintain friendship. Send memes to each other. Don't try to fucking make it more than that. Don't make it more than that.
Yeah. I think that's good. And I mean, it's just two different mindsets, right? Mm-hmm. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with just 9 to 5, a job you like or just don't hate, means to an end, right? You get your vacation days, you get your fat paycheck.
That's cool. It's comfortable.
And you're just chilling.
Safe.
And then you have all the time to do whatever else you want. But then there's people like you or me, and we're just like, I'm gonna die if I don't obsessively freak out about something. Like I'm gonna save the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking bend the world.
I was at an internship and I was upset because they didn't have a lot of work for me to do, and so I was like going through org charts, emailing everyone, finding work, and I was freaking out that no one was giving me work, and they're just like. A couple of the kids who sat next to me were like, dude, just chill out and get your paycheck. And I'm like, I'm here to save the world. Yeah, and they're like, all right, chill out, Captain Planet.
All right, fucking Steve Jobs, like, chill.
Yeah, and then here I am saving the world with sending memes to space. But
yeah, dude, hey man, it's
two different mindsets, and there is nothing wrong with it. I think there's something very enviable and respectable about people who are able to, I mean, do what they enjoy and just leave it at work and go home. But I'm some sort of mentally disturbed person where if I'm not just
working towards a goal,
coked up, burning down, like scorched earth, changing things, and I'm not constantly obsessing over what I'm doing in any sense, like
this goal on the top of the mountain, you gotta just you're preaching to the choir.
A year ago, I don't know, I was the white kid. I'm just like, I'm going to get a ukulele. I don't want to put money down on a guitar. I got this super cheap ukulele. And I'm like, I've never played a string instrument before, so that was new to me. The first 2 days, I had it. It was just nonstop. I played it until my fingers bled, and then I switched fingers, and then I played until that one bled. And then my girlfriend's like, maybe you need some medication. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to learn Space Oddity. I think you need medication.
Yeah. Are we on the same team or not? Because there's the door.
I'm Are we just spattering myself with finger blood? Are we on the same team? But I mean, you know, I don't ever expect the like normal happy people to go
to get
pick up a ukulele and play it until their finger bleeds, right? And I'm doing the company thing, and I'm doing it until my fingers bleed.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And so I think it's just different strokes for different folks, and
exactly.
I think that's very insightful. Though I think you saying that made me feel a lot better about what's going on, because a lot of the people I interact with are just like, I'm just trying to get a fat paycheck and do what I want to do.
It took me a long time to realize that, and to realize that I was in the wrong. It was because there's nothing right or wrong about pursuing a passion, and there's nothing right or wrong about having your 9 to 5. Like, it's right and wrong subjectively. Is it right for you? The only thing that is objectively wrong is someone like myself getting mad at them for not wanting what I want.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I can understand, or as soon as I think about just how much I don't want to have that job, and be like, why don't you want it? I think, oh, well, fuck, I hate it. I don't want it. It's not what I like. You have to then understand, well, then the inverse is true for them. They're like, why would I want to burn everything down? They're like, I got a paycheck, I got health insurance, I got a car, you know, I got a roommate, I got a girlfriend, I go get beer on Friday, we fucking pick up basketball on Saturday. To me, I'm like, that looks like hell on earth. That looks like a fucking hamster wheel. But to them, they look at me and they're like, that looks like hell on earth. And just once you can acknowledge that, then it's like, oh, like, maintain friendships, send each other memes, laugh, play Xbox, like, get drunk whenever you guys meet up again. But like, it's because I've, like, when I was pre-med at UGA, you know, I always liked studying with my other pre-med friends who are just psychopaths. There's no like, oh, it's a big game at UGA this weekend. It was like, no, like, we got 10 days to the next OChem test. Like, we need to eviscerate it. Like, you know? And when I would have, like, labs with people, and I'd have to work in groups, and every once in a while there'd be someone that had to take OChem because they were whatever. They were just getting their bio degree just to have a bio degree. They weren't necessarily trying to get an MD. And they'd be like, they were just trying to get a C. But I'd be like, why are you not tackling this full time? Like, what do you mean you're going to Georgia, Florida? We should be studying. They're like, dude, I'm just trying to... And it's like, oh, like, that was an example of, like, people working together who did not have the same goal. And it was like, oh, so when I've reached, like, I've started, like, on a couple occasions, I've, like, started to reach out to someone and be like, yo, do you want to help me build this podcast? And then, like, I'll always, like, delete the text, and I'll be like, because with so many, literally multiple companies over the last, like, 6 years, in hindsight, I'll always be like, I wish it was just me. I wish it was just me. Like, so with this, I've just keep, whenever I'm about to, like, ask someone to join, I'll just delete it and be like, no. Like, because when I'm doing this, it's just my own insanity. And I'm responsible for the successes, and I'm responsible for the failures. If there was someone else that was just, like, kind of like, hey, man, could you find me guests? Or could you... like, hey, can you figure out help me, like, cool my laptop? And they got back to me, like, 2 days later with, like, a YouTube video, like, hey, I found this tutorial. And it's just like, dude, you just typed in laptop cooling on YouTube. You know, versus, like, here I am literally, like, you know, ripping open boxes and, like, putting together all this shit. I'm, like, you know, sending you a picture. I'm like, it's alive! Like, unless someone's doing anything short of that, I would be furious with them. And so with this, it's just like, these are my successes, and the failures are entirely my own. And it's, man, it's, if you can, I wish I knew that when I was, what are you, 23, 22?
22. Oh, I turned 23 in like a month and 10 days.
Cool story. But,
hey, now.
Hey, now.
I'm the guest. I get to choose what we play.
The guest. Give me the aux cord. Yeah, man.
I didn't like that voice.
You didn't like what? I didn't even know what voice. Give me
Is that my voice? Is that mine?
Is that my voice? I didn't even know what I was. Give me the aux cord, Biggie. It's give me the aux cord. 1, His name's Warren. He's from New York City. Not going
Warren.
wrong. Warren.
Dude, my-
One syllable. Warren.
Warren. So my friends will
W-A-H-H-N.
spell my name W-O-R-N.
Warren.
And they'll be like, Warren.
Are they Hasidic
Warren.
Jews? Warren.
Warren.
Fucking Brooklyn. Hello, Warren. Oh, God.
So my girlfriend's first name is Laurel. And
Oh, her
as a
name is
kid,
Lauren.
I had a super bad speech impediment. I couldn't do R's or L's. I was Wolwen. My sister was Sawa. Like, we were the Eshpitas. Like, I was a New Yorker until I was 8 or 9. Like, Christmas was horrible. My family would torment me. Like, fa wa 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 wa. And I was talking to my girlfriend Laurel, and I was like, man, imagine how messed up it would be if that got passed on, and this kid who couldn't say R's or L's, his parents were Walwin and Wowel. Like, say Laurel with L and R being a W. Wowel. It's like somebody going like, whoa.
He would just have to become like a beatboxer, like You just have to become Yeah.
Get my kid in the lab, dude.
Did you get in the fucking lab, dude? Get him some dubstep, dude. Get him some headphones, dude. Get him mixing young.
Something. You got possessed for a moment.
That voice right there. I don't know what that voice was. It's just like, yeah, dude. Just fucking yeah, dude. Just.
Seeing you in a college environment would have been peak interesting.
Not really. I was a psychopath. I was wake up at 5,
hardcore
lift,
in the books.
I literally remember being on the beach in Panama City, and one of the UGA football players coming up to me and asking me if I was like an incoming freshman. I was so fucking into weightlifting and dieting. I literally had like 8 abs. I was upset. It was just do anything to the extreme.
That's exactly how I am currently.
So it was, like, dude, I literally used to do, like, I used to be able to do like 40 pull-ups and like get down to like 150 push-ups in a row, and then I would just study until sunset. I think I went to one football game in my time at UGA, and I would just 4.0s nonstop. And then when I finally did go out at the end of the semesters, it wasn't just like, let's go get some beers. I used to have a Camelback that we took the bladder out, and we'd put it, because I was fucking jacked, I could put it between like my shoulder blades and you couldn't see it under a shirt, and we just fill it with vodka and 5-hour energies, and we'd run the tube down my sleeve. And so I literally, like, we would just go get some like cheap beer or something, go to wherever, go to like City Bar or whatever, and just get the cups, and then we just go fill them up. And there was the pictures I sent you of like me with the mailbox, that was just one of the mailboxes I stole. Like, when I would go out, dude, I'd always wake up with like a bloody nose, like sometimes it'd be like a black eye, like I lost my wallet multiple times. I'd steal mailboxes and just break shit. Dude, I was Dr. It was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It was like most of the semester, it was just like, studying and like, okay, 4.0's got to do it good. Like, go to bed early, meditate, eat healthy, vitamins, never drink, never smoke. And then once it was time to like, once the grades were in, it was like, oh, now I got 2 weeks off. It was like, let's burn it to the fucking ground. It would be like, it wasn't like, let's go out and get beers. It was like, till Valhalla, brothers. Like, it was. Yeah. So yeah, no, I was interested in college, but in hindsight, I'm like, God damn, I was difficult to live with. Because it was just like, I'd come down on like a Saturday night, I'd be like, why the fuck are you guys up making noise? I'm trying to sleep. I'm trying to study tomorrow. But it'd be like 9 p.m. on a Saturday. It'd be like, dude, it's 9 p.m. at the University of Georgia in Athens on a Saturday. How are you possibly upset at anyone for being up and drinking? And I'd be like, fuck all of you. I'm going, like, it was so interesting. Depends what your definition of interesting is.
I have
difficult. Yeah.
A good UGA story. So my freshman semester, I lived with this random roommate. He's from Zimbabwe. Just this like pretty scrawny white guy, big head, like pretty fit. And he just drank like no tomorrow. Just absolute animal. So he ended up jumping out of our 9th story window, and he lived. And this is a fantastic story. So super scrawny white guy, like pretty chill, pretty low key. But when he'd get drunk or like high, he would be in just this machine, right? This animal. He took 2 ambulances within the first month of school. He lost his phone. One day he woke up in some like drug pen, surrounded by coke, didn't have any money. This is just from his point of view. And he lost his phone, lost his wallet, and was just surrounded by a bunch of unconscious people. He's like, whoa. And so he walked home, and it was like middle of August at UGA, like super hot, super humid, just down the loop or 316 or whatever. And his head was red as a lobster, and he came into our apartment or our dorm, and he just laid down on the ground. And I'm like, holy hell, what happened, dude? He looked so red. He's like, I went to Walmart to pee on the way home, and it was the color of Coca-Cola. And I'm like, not healthy. And this kid, other stories, he would go to the football games. I never did because I was a nerd, and I still am a nerd. I wasn't. I still am. He went to a football game, but he pre-gamed before at the frats. He got super hammered, went to the game. He got kicked out for being belligerent. Then he tried to sell his student ticket right outside the gate, and the security guard, who he thought was a cop, security guard's like, hey, you can't do that. So he beamed down a huge staircase and just ate it. That was the first ambulance ride. And that night when he was at the hospital, I think they breathalyzed him either before or after the ambulance showed up. He blew a .38.
Jesus Christ in heaven.
That's like brain damage level. It's insane.
Yeah, that's like respiratory depression.
Yeah, it was like you should be in a coma, and he got discharged and walked home and was still drunk. And I'm like, you are beyond me. And so this one night I was in downtown Athens drinking with some buddies freshman year. And I saw him, and he was like just girl in each arm, hammered out of his mind. And I was like, hey man, what's going on? I call him Z-Man because he's from Zimbabwe.
Naturally.
I'm like, what's up, dude? And he's like, with these 2 girls in tow, he says, you got to swim with the whales to get to the dolphins, Warren. And he just like looked to his sides, and I'm like, what? And the girls were unfazed, like, whatever. And so I didn't go back to our dorm because I'm like, he's going to be doing his thing, maybe, whatever.
His mating call.
Exactly. So I went to a friend's. And then at 9 a.m. I wake up to a text from our very like low-key religious roommate right across the hall. Hey, I just woke up. Your roommate came in like 30 minutes ago while I was getting ready for church, just reeking of hell, and passed out on our futon. Can you come get him? He won't really move. And I'm like, okay. And I get him, and he's got a huge black eye. His pants are ripped down the butt. And at first I was really concerned. I'm like, dude, did you get like sexually assaulted? It's okay. And I was worried. He's like, no, man, I just kept falling downtown. I kept falling. I'm like, you must have fallen a lot, or downstairs a bunch, because he was banged up. And our dorm was locked. And it's weird because it's a deadbolt, right? So you can't lock yourself out unless you leave it, get a key, lock it, lose the key. So I'm like, oh, you tool, you lost our key. We're going to have to pay for this to get redone. I'm pissed, right? Yeah. And so I unlock it and open it back up. He's like, you didn't lock it? I'm like, no. And I'm like, oh, he's like, oh, shoot, it must have been me or something, whatever. We go into the dorm, and it's just trashed. And the window screen is punched out. And what's funny is that I wasn't fazed. He's done this 2 or 3 times. It's only November of our freshman semester. We've known each other for like 7 weeks. Yeah. And I like third or fourth time he's punched out the screen, completely unfazed. I'm like, go get the screen, dude. He's like, I'm really sore. Can you go get it? And he just plops down on our futon. So me and my buddy Jake, who I bump into in the hallway, he helps me carry the screens up.
Jake.
And
did his last name?
I walk back.
Did his last name by any chance begin with a B?
No.
Okay. Sorry, keep going.
No worries. But Jake and I go get the screens, and then we walk back into the room. My Z-Man is still chilling there, and I notice his key is hung up on his bedpost. I'm like, oh, dude, you found your key. That's good. He's like, what? And I'm like, your key's hanging there. He's like, oh, cool. I didn't lose it, I guess. I'm like, wait, how'd you lock yourself out if your key was in here? He's like, well, you came back and locked her out. I'm like, no. I said I didn't.
Yeah.
And then he just looks at the window and looks at me. And me and my buddy Jake run back down. And we're on the 9th floor of this building, right? We run back down to where the screen was. And there's 2 footprints in ass print. In the left footprint, his shoe is still there. I grab his shoe. I walk upstairs. He's missing his left shoe.
How did he not break his legs?
And so, wait, it gets more in detail. So I bring it back up, and we're like, oh my God, you fell out the window. He's like, I had a dream I fell. His watch was on the ground down there too. And I'm like, no way. And so, like any responsible
shit.
What?
So it seems like Bugs Bunny shit. Like, you know, the Wile E. Coyote runs through the wall and there's this imprint there.
Yeah, there's just an ass print, some like deep, and it's like dirt. It's like southern dirt. It's just pine straw and then just ground.
Yeah, this is the birth of Sonic, the ass cheeks.
The ass cheeks.
Origin story.
And so, like any responsible roommate and friend, I got the rest of the hall in there, and we all just started roasting him. We were just making fun of him. We're like falling out the window, looking ass. But what we did, we started dropping pencils out the window and timing how long they took to hit the ground, calculate how fast he hit the ground. It's like 45 miles an hour. And then from my history of watching CSI and Criminal Minds, I friggin' forensicked this together. I was like, Rodrigo, which is the nickname of the kid who went to church, who found him. I'm like, Rodrigo, what time did he come in your room? He's like, oh, around 8:30. And I'm like, Hunter, who was with him, he was like, I'm like, Hunter, what time did you leave our room? Because you were hanging out with him last night. He's like, last time I saw him was like 4 a.m. And then he went to bed. And I'm like, Z-Man, when'd you go to bed? He's like, I don't remember. He's like, hey, okay, useless information. And so he said he woke up on the ground outside. And I'm like, bro, if you fell out the window at 4:30 a.m., and the way his print was, is you could tell he landed on his feet, kind of like in a squat position. And then he kneed himself in the head. That's how he got the huge black eye. He was out cold for 4 hours in November.
Jesus Christ.
And then he just walked back up. And so finally someone responsible came in, and they're like, hey, maybe we should go to the hospital. He's like, no, I'm fine. And we're like all starting to think like, yeah, actually you might be pretty messed up.
Internal bleeding. Like,
he wasn't bleeding. Oh, internal bleeding maybe.
That's what I meant, the bad kind.
He wasn't like really visually messed up other than the huge black eye. And so he's like, all right, now I don't want to go to the hospital because an ambulance costs money. I'm like, well, I can drive you. He's like, no, it's fine. I don't need any more bills. And we're like, okay, if you can walk down the hallway without looking like you're a wreck, then we won't bring you to the hospital. And he couldn't. And so we're like, all right, get in my car. We drove him to the hospital, and it was so funny. I'll have to send you a picture, but he's sitting there in the waiting room. There's only two other people in the waiting room. It's a mom and her son, soccer uniform. The kid's just holding his arm. He's like sitting there. Meanwhile, my roommate is starting to lose consciousness, and he's looking pale as a ghost. And we're like, stay awake.
Stay awake.
And the nurse is like, what happened to him? And we're like, oh, he fell out the 9th story window. And she's like, okay. And they bring in the soccer kid first. I'm like, this kid is about to die in your waiting room. They call him in. And they won't let us back because we're not immediate family. But then they do let us back. And they bring us all the way down the hallway. And he's in the ICU. He's in this huge glass room, a ton of monitors, all these doctors like hooking him up with stuff. And this main doctor is in Crocs with charms. I remember this vividly. He's like, so what'd you say what happened? And I'm like, oh, he fell out of our dorm window. He's like, at UGA? I'm like, yeah. He's like, what building? I'm like, Russell. It was a big, tall freshman high rise. And he's like, what floor? I'm like, 9. He's like, can you go to the waiting room? So we go to the waiting room. He brings us back. I get to take a picture with him while he's sitting there in like this neck brace and all hooked up to stuff. I'm just like, 9th floor to the ground, 1st floor to my heart.
Yeah.
And
that's our album.
That's our album cover. And the doctor's like, so he's fine. I'm like, what? They're like, we haven't given him any pain meds because we were scared of internal bleeding, but doesn't look like he has internal bleeding, and he's just going to walk out of here. And I'm like, what? And suddenly the dean of students from UGA comes in, because we told the hospital this happened at UGA, and they're like, we can't have kids trying to off themselves on our campus. That's going to look bad. So the dean of students comes in the most denim outfit, denim shirt, denim jacket, denim pants. He's like, can you tell me what happened? And I told him they moved him to the UGA affiliated hospital. And I do not know. We were at St. Mary's initially. And then we went to Athens Regional.
Where I used to volunteer.
Dude, and we went to Athens Regional, high quality institute. We showed up. They did some tests on him within an hour. They were like, yeah, he's real messed up. We're like, what do you mean? They're like, well, he has a broken hand, a few fractured vertebrae, a heart contusion, and a bruised lung. And we're like, what test did the other people run? They were about to let him just walk clean out of there.
They did the financial test. They're like, I don't think he has money. They're like, he's good.
Yeah, I don't know, dude, because this hospital had him hooked up to stuff. Like, it looked like a scene. And they were like, he's fine. And then Athens Regional was like, nah,
Athens Regional is dope as shit. I loved that place.
It's a good hospital.
It's very good. People always shit on it. I'm like, dude, they deal with a city that's composed of crazy college kids and a massive homeless population, one of the biggest in the U.S. They deal with, they're not getting softballs. They're getting curveballs and
they do it all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to the hospital and he was real messed up, and he was there for a week. His parents in Zimbabwe, right? And so his mom had to fly out of Zimbabwe. He made a pretty speedy recovery. Like, he was in a brace and just kind of messed up after a week or two, but then he flew home to Zimbabwe. And I messed up this story. Typically when I'm in the setting and I tell this story, I don't say that he's from Zimbabwe. And I'll be like, yeah, so now he's in Zimbabwe. And people are always like, why is he in Zimbabwe? I'm like, buildings are shorter. And that's how we end it.
Yeah. I was going to say storytelling. Yeah, you have to finish it with, so, he's in Zimbabwe now.
He's in Zimbabwe now?
Well, you shouldn't even say he lives there. You should be like, next thing, the last I heard from him, he got on a plane to Zimbabwe.
Why'd he go to Zimbabwe? Oh, buildings are shorter. That makes
you can't jump
I've had a lot of people laugh at that, and then I've had a lot of people be like, oh, that makes sense.
Those are the people that are either stupid as shit or they're not even paying attention to the story. They're going to say that makes sense no matter what you said. They're like, yeah, now he's dead, but he killed himself and brought himself back to life. They're like, that makes sense, dude. That makes sense.
So you remember the Bible, right?
Yeah, you remember, Bible, what is it, Lazarus, dude, Lazy L? Yeah, dude. Panama City.
Panama City 2017. Spring break 2017. But that's my craziest UGA story. And then I lived with another guy who drank like a madman. And I'm just sitting here doing my math homework. I'm like, man, these are just... I can't go 0 for 2. I got to keep this one alive. But Z-Man is still alive in the flesh. He's in Boston.
Hey, shout out Z-Man.
Yeah, dude, he got a sick job. He's still... I don't know if he drinks as heavily, but he's doing chill.
We should be doing tests on him and see what his blood is made of. Because I bet he could beat coronavirus.
One thing I remember about the doctor with Crocs, and this has made me love doctors and Crocs with charms. They have to have charms. A lot of medical professionals.
What the fuck are charms?
So you know how Crocs have the holes on them?
Yeah.
You can get these little it's kind of like putting a pin in your backpack or bedazzling stuff. You get little funny... Crocs sells them to fit in their holes. They're like these snap-on things that are cartoon characters or flowers or animals.
Like Flair?
Yeah, so he's got black Crocs with flames all over him, so flowers and dogs and stuff. I'm like, man, this guy's nuts. And when he was initially like, yeah, your roommate's fine, he's walking out of here, nothing's broken, I was like, what? He's like, he's kind of like Wolverine and Ozzy Osbourne because his BAC is so high. and he didn't break a thing from a 90-foot fall. And I'm like, I don't think a doctor's ever compared someone. He's like, yeah, he's kind of like Wolverine. Athens Regional, they're like, no, he's kind of like an alcoholic.
He's an alcoholic on death's door. Dude, at Athens Regional, man, the orthopedics used to fucking... I never knew this, but I've watched so many surgeons at Athens Regional, they used to once the patient was under, they would just turn on the sound system and just fucking play like their iPod. I just always figured that doctors was just like a sterile, clean environment, you know, nurse, scalpel. Like, I remember when like Rack City Bitch came out? Like, I remember watching it. I swear to God.
Surgery?
I swear to, because I was in the anesthesia department, so we'd go in afterwards and we'd like undo all the wires and shit. I vividly remember like undoing, because we like undo and then like prep for the next. I remember them coming in and like me having to go back in there to get like a dolly or something, or like some like cart, some like anesthesia cart. And I remember them being like putting on the gloves and like the patient was under and he's like flipping on his little light, got his like, you know, surgical tools, and it was just like Rack City. And I was like, what? And he's like, Buzz on that beat. Yeah, and he's like walking in, they're doing his thing, and I was like, what the fuck? And they're like, yeah, they're like surgeons, they're like, apparently they like to listen to music. You know, it's almost like a stereotype. Like the brain surgeon listened to like classical like Beethoven. It was just like, you know, it was like a meme in itself. But yeah, some of them used to listen to like EDM and shit. It was just like they play like Tomorrow World playlists. I'm like, before I was gonna start criticizing it. I'm like, I mean, they're doctors. They know what the fuck they're doing. Who am I to be like, you should turn off that music, mister? You know?
Yeah.
I'm a junior at college.
Get in the zone, right?
Yeah, or maybe they're just like, fuck it.
Or maybe they're just like, they know how easy certain surgery is. So like,
maybe it's just like, oh, this is like, okay, this is like a, yeah. It's like getting like, it's like a walk in the park. It's like, oh, we're doing that today. Okay. You know?
I know.
Light them up.
When I was at NASA working on the Mars rover, people would jam in clean rooms.
That's
like
quite an intro.
What?
When I was working at NASA on the Mars rover.
No. It's just to set the scene. We're in a clean room.
It's over. It's over. Goodbye, Warren. Might go away sometime, but yeah.
Dust Bowl 2.0.
Well, knock on wood, man. Just fucking everything that's happened. Did you see something where it's like there's some like some like reality TV show in like Germany or England or something called Big Brother, and apparently they've been like isolated from like the rest of the world. They're in like an apartment or a studio, and it's apparently they finally decided to tell them about coronavirus because they're like, this isn't like ethically like right anymore. Like they might have family members. But the first thing I was thinking, I was like, I bet they didn't believe them. I bet they thought they were getting punked. They're like, because that would be such a perfect setup. Tell you that the show is all about like isolating you, and in reality it's a big punk. Like, hey, we got to end the show. There's something terrible going on. These people must have been like, oh yeah, this is part of the show. But then they like actually turn on the news like, oh fuck, like, yeah. So
yeah. Do you know what that show's about? Is it like real world?
That's
or
what it sounds
something?
like. That's what it's. Yeah, I don't know. So I made a note to myself. I'm gonna see if I can get in contact with any of them. See if they can get them on here.
That would be awesome. Mm-hmm. That'd be crazy. What were your first thoughts when you got?
It's vitamin C. I don't want to die.
Vitamin C. Yeah, dude, your immune system.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've been making because I'm like, how can I like make coronavirus like? How can I benefit from this, and not in like a price gouging sense? But I was like, how can like what can I basically like, how can I make the best out of the situation? And I was like, well, everyone's stuck at home. That means like the chances of me getting a yes in a response as a request to come on my podcast is probably higher now than it will ever be, or at least while my podcast is still small. So I've just been sending out tons of emails and being like, quarantine, bored as shit. Let me introduce myself. I'm Tommy. Like, so still really no responses, but yeah, I want to email like the guys who make South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker. I want to email like Johnny Knoxville of Jackass.
That'd be sick.
Yeah, I was just like, because I'm trying to like find like people who are definitely like famous and cool, but also like immature. Because like I don't want to get someone that's like some, you know, serious actor. Like, what are we going to talk about? Do we have talking points? Like, fuck that. Like, I've been looking at Johnny Knoxville's Instagram, and he's like, day 5 of quarantine. And it's like a carrot that looks like a dick, and he's like, I'm getting turned on by vegetables. Like, it's just, I'm like, all right, that's someone who's immature.
I bet Johnny Knoxville would be a sick guest.
Oh, he'd be an awesome guest. Whether or not he would say yes, I don't know. Well, the thing is, I feel like people that are like that cool, if anyone's gonna say yes, they might be like, fuck it, you know. It's not Rogan. It's not Rogan.
There's some
whatever.
People where their like reputation precedes them, and that's when it's kind of hard to get in contact. But like Johnny Knoxville, it just seems like
he hasn't been on Rogan.
Like, let's do it. Yeah.
I'm hoping that I can get someone that has sort of like the maddest mindset, where he was like, he burst out laughing and said like no, but like thank you for the offer. I'm hoping someone's just gonna be like, who is this? Like, oh, it's just me, 100 subscribers. I'm hoping someone's just gonna be like, fuck it, he's got balls. Like,
yeah, dude, that'd be awesome.
I think that'd be cool as shit to have like Knoxville on like before he was ever on, like, because he hasn't been on Joe Rogan. And I was just like, what if I could get Knoxville on first? Yeah,
that'd be crazy. Well, Rogan had someone on, Suzanne Santo, recently, a musician, and I just thought it was really funny because I met her just on a hike, and I bumped into her, and we just hung out for a day, and then I went to one of her shows later with some buddies. And I'm like, oh, that's funny that I actually know this random person who's like she's not a super huge musician, but she's doing pretty well for herself, and she used to be a fiddler for some really big band, I forget, but she's doing a solo project, just crushing it.
Fuck yeah.
And I thought that was super funny. You should hit her up. She's really chill.
All right, yeah. I'm trying to like make a list of like, yeah, just anyone that would. I tried to get someone from Pornhub, but I didn't get any responses.
Did you like Twitter DM them or what?
I did like their service email, because like the hardest part about all this is like finding how to contact. It's not anyone can just fucking, you can write, as you know, you can just take a minute and just write down like a template for an invite, and like you can, you know, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing. After that, it's all about like
how you get in touch with them.
You gotta, you always, if you can find, they have a lot of them will have like their own website. It'll be like, you know, I'm sure Johnny Knoxville has johnnyknoxville.com. You go on there with like any of these, you just go with any website, you just go to anything, just scroll all the way down and find contact or like FAQs, and you can go in, you can normally find a phone number about something, and as long as you don't hit like a robot, as long as you can just contact someone, even if it's someone that's in like fucking like customer service for orders or something, if you can just get your foot in the door, chances are they'll transfer you to someone else, and you can kind of like maneuver around their like labyrinth of people that you can contact. And then normally you can never get in contact with the person you're trying to, but you can get pretty close to them, and then they'll have a message, you can have your message passed along. So yeah, that's really the only difficult part, is just finding who to call, who to email. That's the only hard part. But yeah, some of them I just like, if I can't find, like some of them I've gone out of my way and been like, they purposely do not have contact anywhere. Some of them just, you can't contact them, they just don't have. I'm trying to think of who, but they're just like, you can't. So eventually what it comes down to is, you just tweet at them, but then it's just like you're lost in the sea of noise. I mean, you should find some porn stars. I tried to fucking find Riley Reid's contact, but I couldn't. She's
too high profile. You gotta go lower than Riley Reid.
But the thing is, like, if I'm gonna get a porn star, I want to get like high profile, like, you know.
Well, you can get like not Riley Reid, but still. Yeah,
I guess she is kind of like the face of. She is like our generation's like Jenna Jameson or Pamela Anderson, right? Yeah, damn it. Yeah, man. I hope anyone listening to this podcast wasn't hoping to hear about meme set. Dude, I had on a fucking United States Air Force drone operator, and we had a podcast where all we did was talk about drones. Then we did another one, and all we ended up talking about was like anime artificial intelligence. Like, what if artificial intelligence was horny? What if that was like what if that's something we didn't foresee? It's like either it's going to be for us or against us. It's either going to be Skynet or it's going to be like lift us up. And it's like, what if there's a third option no one thought about? What if it's just horny?
Just a sexually deviant
I mean, no,
Sky.
no wouldn't mean no, because this thing has the power of a god. So you'd be like, no, and it'd be like, shit, we joked about it before all this happened. We're like, what if it just shut down the airports, shut down businesses, and it was like, no one do anything. Everyone turn on your webcams and just start fucking, or I'm gonna nuke the world. And we're all just like, who do you call? It's like it's like the ultimate bully rapist. It's just like,
That's so horrible.
well, I mean,
What the?
point being is sometimes when you tune in to a certain guest, you're not going to get anything that has to do with that. This guy was a drone operator in the United States Air Force. It was like, at the end of it, it was like, oh yeah, yeah, the end.
That's
Well, think about it. If an AI can be malevolent enough to fucking nuke the world, it can do anything.
yeah.
It can do anything less than
Somebody
total
would have to
extermination.
then you'd be like, all right, well, how are AI made, right? Like training sets. They get all these data points. So, I mean, honestly, if you trained them on animals or humans, I think
Or the content of the internet.
there would be, I mean, what's the
percentage is
majority?
porn?
I think some part of it would be horny. Yeah. I mean, even just talking to people, they'd be like, huh, they seem to have ulterior motive.
They seem to like sex, yeah. Like, who are the biggest ballers? The guys with like the biggest houses and the nicest cars. It's all just like an evolved form of like, look at my nest, look at my cave. It's just like, these are my mating rooms. Like how instead we call it mansions and penthouses, but ultimately it's just like a mating nest. It's like a bird with like the highest nest in the tree. That's what a penthouse is.
Yeah. But then the question is, like, there's a physical response to humans doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would a computer get out of it?
Yeah, so we tackled that, and it was this was 3 hours of this. Well, we figured it would have its goal. It would have its parameters as to operate within, and maybe it would be save humanity. If you started out with a baseline save Earth, well, then it would probably wipe out humanity because we're a cancer on this planet. If you then lowered it to like save humanity, what it might do is kill like the vast majority of people. It'd be like, we need to depopulate so that we do less of a drain on our resources. So then like thinking about like Isaac Asimov's like 3 laws, or like what if it had parameters and it was like you have to say, or what if you just have to serve humanity and you have to make them as happy as possible? Well, what it would probably do is be like, where it'd scan our brains and be like, at what point, how do I like quantify happiness? It'd be like dopamine release. And it'd be like, the biggest dopamine release is like shooting intravenous meth and like orgasming. And it'd be like, well, I have to keep them safe, so I can't give them drugs because those drugs can kill them. So it'd be like, it would reach the end conclusion of like, everyone needs to fuck. It would just, and it would be like, oh my God, it's an outcome we never saw coming. And it was,
I gotta watch this one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was brilliant. It was about like horny AI and UFOs. It was a real highbrow conversation. It was an intellectual debate.
I like it, man.
Yeah.
How do you feel about aliens?
I fucking hope they're real.
You hope they're real.
Yeah.
But like educated guess.
Educated guess.
Around?
That there's no way there isn't intelligent life in the universe aside from us. It's just that's
but
a number.
Intelligence a huge limiter on that.
Yeah. Well, life definitely. I mean, yeah, but I think if we can exist, why can't we exist somewhere else? I mean, sure. I'm sure there's infinite, infinite worlds where some primitive, bacteria, some single-celled shit arises. Whether or not it becomes intelligent, I mean, it doesn't matter how small the percentage is. When you're looking at hundreds of trillions of galaxies, each with hundreds of billions of stars, it doesn't matter because you're multiplying the number by such a massive place of potential worlds, or such a massive number of potential worlds. It doesn't matter what decimal point you get to. Like, oh, there's only a 1 in 9 billion chance intelligence life, and it's like multiply that just in the Milky Way, and it's like there's like 90.
Yeah.
So I think they definitely exist, and I think they exist, and if they're advanced, this is an analogy or explanation I always use is like, do you ever look at like retrofuturism, like what people in the 1900s thought 2000 was going to look like? and it's always wildly incorrect because it's their technology at the time extrapolated to an extreme. So it's like everyone will have a personal blimp, trains everywhere, and it's like, but it's shit they never could have seen, like Wi-Fi or space travel, and it's like there'll be big blimps everywhere and, massive boats and sails, and it's like people will have wings, like, it's like stupid shit like that. I always think, like, if we can see how wildly incorrect, and then, look at our prediction from 1980 to what they think 2020 is going to be, it's a lot closer to reality. So the farther away you go, farther into the past you go and predict what the future will be like, the more incorrect it is, In the future, there will be big floaty machines, like, like, it's like the 1800s guy with the mustache. It's like, they didn't see the iPad. You come to the 1980s and they started predicting touchscreens. So where I'm getting at is, if we're predicting alien technology and we think of like anti-gravity saucers or matter manipulation, that makes sense in the same way that 1980s predictions are kind of accurate for 2020. But what happens when they're more than 40 years? What about when it's the 1900s guy making a prediction about 2020? Well, that's still only 100 years. What about when it's someone from 10,000 years ago predicting 2020? The caveman, it's, here's fire. What's the future going to be like? Maybe more fire? And it's like, no, there's going to be Wi-Fi, and there's going to
cattle and fire.
There's going to be seat back telephones on your international flight. Oh, you don't know what flight is? Oh, you don't know what a telephone is? Oh, you don't even have you don't have language. You don't know what I'm saying. It's, you can't understand why I don't have hair on my face. Oh, we shave. Oh, you don't know what shaving is yet. Okay. So it's like, you don't know why my teeth are like not, destroyed. Like, so it gets to such a far level of, you basically can't even, it's outside the box. You can't imagine it.
Yeah.
That I think whatever our thoughts of aliens are, once you get to thousands and years and millions, our ideas don't matter. When we're like, well, how would they get here? Well, that's because we see the speed of light as the cosmic speed limit. Just like at one time we saw the Earth being flat. Or, what was it, 47, 49, when Chucky Yeager broke the sound barrier? We were worried that he was just going to die, at the Trinity nuclear bomb site in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and we detonated the first nuke. They were pulling straws on, they were betting on, will it ignite the atmosphere of the Earth? I mean, we didn't fucking know what was going to happen. And it was just
I like how they pulled the trigger on it, too. They're like, let's just...
Well, if it doesn't do it, then we're going to lose to the Japs, so fire, and it's... But that's how far... That's just how insane it is, Even Bill Gates saying no one will ever need more than 648 kilobytes of memory. I mean, and that guy's still alive. So you go so far back that it starts to become, you're pretty much looking at like you're looking at like single cell organisms trying to predict astrophysics. It just doesn't. So I think whatever they are, even us thinking about, well, there are enough planets in one galaxy that multiply it by a percentage of life probability, then they have to. I think that could be as incorrect as, in the future there will be personal blimps for everyone. Like, there will be radio phones in all buildings. Like, there could be realms of physics that we can't even comprehend. That could be as invisible to us as, slivers of the electromagnetic spectrum that we can't see without special sensors. IR, X-ray, or fucking gamma. Like, it could just, like, there's an equal they could be so far advanced, they could be, where time and space isn't even a thing. It's just like, oh they thought we couldn't get there because of, that'd be like going back to the 1500s and then being like, what do you think the future's going to be like? We're like, well, we know that there will never be white men on that side of the world because you would fall off the earth. You'd be like, well, of course you'd fall off the earth, so we can't get over there. But and we're like, what the and now we're like, wait, what? No, you just go around. But that's such common sense to us, but it was refuted by the sharpest minds of the day back then. That us right now just like, well, we all agree that they couldn't go past the speed of light. The distances are far too great, trillions and trillions of miles, and nuclear propulsion and what energy would. It could be so wrong to them. Like, I think that they could be so advanced that time and space mean nothing, that they could be sitting right here in a form that I mean, what's the vast majority of the universe? Dark matter and dark energy. We call it that because that's just, it sounds a lot better than saying we don't fucking know what it is. We don't know what like 90% of the universe is. Who's to say that they don't exist here? Just like coronavirus can exist and we can't see it, just like germs exist and you don't see it until you look at them through a microscope, they could exist in a form that they could be right here, right now. They could be in this room. So, to answer your question in a less of a crazy rant, yeah, I think they exist, and I think that they might as well be gods because it's that far from us.
I like it. I mean, that was a good point. You get any water after that?
Yeah. It's like old school. What happened? I blacked out.
That was no. I think that's very insane. I've never actually thought about it in that capacity. So I appreciate the insight. I was just going to see where that went.
Yeah,
I mean, it went somewhere.
You were just throwing some shit at the wall, see if this idiot would take the bait.
Dude, you fucking demolished the wall. Yeah. You ran full speed into the wall.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. What do you think, man?
Well,
as someone that's worked at NASA, what do you think?
I think it's going to be cool because I think we're less into like intelligent life, but I think there's going to be some wild milestones of discovering actual alien confirmed life somewhere else that we know isn't on Earth. I think that'll happen in our lifetime.
You do.
Which is awesome. I mean, they've been getting just dangerously close to it on Mars, right? Being like, oh, this used to be water, and now they've detected liquid water under the ice caps of Mars. And I think it's really funny because there's some scientists at Georgia Tech that proposed to a lot of big NASA missions, and it's really funny hearing from them about stuff like, imagine a sailboat on some moon somewhere where you have these big methane oceans, or you have these big underwater oceans, and people are doing like satellites and rovers that are like jellyfish, or like actual sailboats that will be buoyant in methane. Jesus. But I think if there's water under the ice caps of Mars, which is what the satellite data has been telling us, I think if we can get there, and that's the closest one we can reach, I think we'll definitely find life in some form on Mars. And that being said, on Europa too. Europa is the big ice moon with the huge under ice ocean. It's just a big ocean planet. If it's active, like you're getting volcanic venting on the floor of the planet, there's got to be, all you need is water and a little bit of oxygen of some sort, or maybe even not, but mostly just water and heat.
Yeah,
is all you need. You're brewing baby soup.
Get that soup going. It almost seems like it's gonna go. It's like, yeah, you get heat, motion, fluid, and just like a smattering of fucking different elements. It almost seems like it's just a matter of time.
It's gotta.
But
it's gotta. So I think
how does the first one form? That's the question. How does the first?
Yeah.
Is it just time?
I think it's exciting though because it's all within our solar system, right? Like, luckily, there's places in our solar system where we can be like, oh, maybe there is, because it's absolutely wild that there's even that number of bodies where we can be like, maybe there's something there in like our neighborhood, because everything else is so astronomically far away. It's like, well, we'd never be able to see. I think space travel would be a lot less interesting to people, or maybe more interesting but less funded, if the nearest thing we could go to wasn't Mars, 2-month journey, and that's like hardcore astrophysics. You're really taking advantage of some stuff. If you're just clean beaming for another planet, like, you are years and years and years and years and years and years, like decades, millennium.
How far would it take to get to just Jupiter?
Even
at like the closest, is there such thing as like the Mars window for Jupiter?
Yeah,
like
I
the
mean, so
Jupiter window.
there's stuff like that. When you're starting to go to the outer solar system, you start taking advantage of gravity assists.
Slingshots.
Yeah, so you start swinging by Mars, you'll come back, swing by Earth, maybe you'll swing by Mercury, Venus, the Sun, whatever. Well, you won't swing by the Sun because that's the focus, but you'll be swinging by planets, and it'll take like a few years to get there. I think a lot of missions take around 5 to 7-ish years. And that's to get there, right? So Jupiter and Saturn, I mean, Jupiter's right after Mars, right? I think. Maybe. I worked at NASA, trust me. But but it's still so far away. Yeah. And then
how far is Pluto?
I have a buddy who does. How far away is what?
Pluto, because we just had New Horizons there, right? How long?
Yeah. I don't know. Let's find this out.
Yeah,
you got a computer in front of you.
I got all.
How far away is? So we're 1 AU away from the sun, which is about 1.5 times 10 to the 8.
Isn't that seems like it's so weird? It's just a coincidence that we happen to be 1 AU away.
Who invented this system?
Yeah. I always love that when it's like, isn't that crazy that we're like, the idea of like, that we're just in the right zone for life to form, and it's like, well, if there was no life formed, would there be no life formed to be posing the question of, isn't this odd? You know?
But we're
New Horizons.
1 AU away, which is, I think, 150 million or 1.5 or what is it, 15 million kilometers away from the sun. Pluto is 40 times the distance that we are away from the sun.
Launched in 2006, New Horizons is the fastest spacecraft to ever leave Earth. It crossed the orbit of Jupiter, blah, blah, blah. But it still took 9.5 years to reach Pluto. Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's a fat amount of time. So that's like, I mean, you have Voyager, right? And you know the Oort cloud. There's this big, ominous cloud of just dark ashes.
Of just shit.
Nothing.
Non-reflective shit.
Even going as fast as like New Horizons and Voyager to escape the Oort cloud, which is the end of the influence of the sun and the sun's trying to think of what it is. It's like essentially it's weird to think about, but the solar system is moving, right?
Yeah.
Really, really fast through all this stuff. And so there's like this shock that the sun and the solar system make.
Yeah.
And so it's like this kind of this like magnetic tail of the sun.
Okay.
But to escape the Oort cloud outside of all the dust and the influence of the sun is going the speed of Voyager, which is like up until New Horizons, the fastest spacecraft, takes something like 30 or 56,000 years.
That's just to get out of our solar system.
And that's just and that's like the fastest thing that's ever moved that humans have made ever. Like that's
we shot what, Voyager, what, 72?
Yeah. I mean, so Voyager was a little different because it did a fair amount. It's called a grand tour. You do all these flybys to pick up speed and then also to just visit planets. So it went Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 did grand tours, separate grand tours. So they all did some crazy orbital dynamics and mechanics to figure out how can we visit every single planet, essentially. And then they didn't really care how fast it got flung out beyond that because they were just like, they wanted to take pictures of things they'd never seen before.
Yeah.
At high resolution. But yeah, like 56,000 years to get out of the Oort cloud, and then you're able to say, all right, where's the next solar system?
Yeah. That's not to get to the next solar system. That's to leave this one.
Wait, let's see. Closest. What's our closest star?
Proxima Centauri, Alpha Centauri. It's 4.3 light
Alpha
years.
Alpha Centauri, 4.3 light years away from Earth.
Yeah.
So that would imagine you're not going like 10 to the negative 10 slower than the speed of light.
So what if, this is one thing I always thought of, is like, if I ever make like a ton of money, and just because it seems like charities are so corrupt, and even leaving shit after, it seems like it always gets trickled down to just people just kind of absorb it. I've always thought,
what are you trying to say?
Where are you getting at with this, buddy? Where are you getting at with this buckaroo? I've always thought that I would It's actually perfect that I met you, because I was just always thought I would make like a spacecraft just to fling out as fast as possible, and I just have it like shooting back images and also just beaming back memes. And one thing I thought of was like, I would get something, and it wouldn't be doing a grand tour. It wouldn't be like, well, let's try to get some pictures. Its sole purpose would be, how fast can we accelerate it? Literally, it'd be like, are we playing baseball? I'd be like, no, we just want to see how far we can throw the ball. Why? Why not? Like, you know, we got to go to the top of the mountain. We got to go to the top of the hill. You know, it's like when you're a kid and you throw a rock down a canyon. You're like, why? Because, like, I just want to see how far we can fucking throw something. And it would be...
That would be interesting. I mean, that'd be really interesting.
If 1972 technology can... It's pretty much... It's only got so much time left on its, like, power producing systems, right? They've shut down almost everything. If it's not already completely shut down.
So it's spinning on, like, a radio... It's a radiothermal generator, right? RTGs. Which is funny. They're a little less common now. Because they're like, wait a second, if these rockets blow up, we're setting off a nuke. Yeah. And then everyone's like, But they used to put them on the Mars rovers. I'm not sure if the current one still does that. Mm-hmm. I think it might. But they had a couple RTGs, and so you literally have this nuclear fusion just giving you
forever
the power. Because they're so far away from the sun. Like, what people don't realize is that solar panels are awesome when you're around Earth, because Earth is like relatively extremely close to the sun. Yeah. When you're out at Mars, you need something like 3 times as big to get the same amount of power that you're getting.
It's not a linear drop in power, right?
Yeah, so it's like a square law. So the further you get away, it's a math. But I mean, you're at Mars. You're at the next closest planet, and it's about 2.5, 3 times the size of the solar panels you need to generate the same amount of power. Like, and then you're imagining these things at Pluto. They're like, oh, okay, you need something the size of a football field to give you the same power that my cell phone photo cell can get.
Because you're going to get to a point where the sun is going to be no brighter than other stars in the night sky. Yeah. And how much you don't run solar panels at night. Yeah.
Cooking with Crisco and uranium.
Yeah, you just start like, you're so far away though, it doesn't matter. There's no environmental protection agency. It's like, you can fucking do anything. You can start melting lead. You can start shooting out whatever. Be like, dude, you're in the middle of nowhere. Like, it doesn't matter what the byproducts are. Fucking the byproducts can be
the issue is getting it off Earth. Yeah. Right? Because, I mean, actually, it's funny that you mentioned the environmental protection thing. Elon Musk got fined because of his Tesla in space. When he launched Starman, the astronaut, and just shot it. It's in an orbit around the sun, right? And I think it's near Mars orbit. But there's things that NASA does as a federal agency called planetary protection, and then also contamination control, where it's like, well, you're not really supposed to launch a whole lot of things without a plan to move them to a graveyard orbit or mitigate damage by having them re-enter. Yeah. And so, although it's this astronomically small probability of anyone ever getting clonked by his roadster in space, people were like, you can't just keep doing that.
Yeah, press it. No, I get that. Space junk.
But if you go like past Pluto, I don't think anyone would give a rat's.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. No, I get the space junk argument, because I mean, Accessory to War by Neil deGrasse Tyson, I mean, it talks about how, like, if you were to be a modern power today in the world, it's like space is your backbone. So I get that. So because you can't set precedent for that. Yeah.
You know about like the space warfare going on? Not really, but it's I was reading up about laws that have to deal with how warfare can be performed in the domain of space.
Yeah, I bet we have not followed those at all.
And it is hilarious because you're not allowed to use the like traditional kinetic warfare, which is like bullets, right? And so you use lasers, which are sick.
Big fan.
Big fan of lasers, dude. I'm friggin' working at the Air Force. Directed energy is what they call radio and laser people. Weapons. Directed energy directorate.
Fuck yeah.
there are some dudes who are stoked. Like, you see that mug of coffee? It's like, I could heat that up to boiling from 5 miles away with this. And I'm just like, don't point it anywhere. But then they put those things in space, and you can just cook stuff. And then on top of that, you have all these, how people establish themselves as a space power. China's done it, Russia's done it, US has done it, and I think India's done it now.
You gotta blow up a satellite.
You just gotta slam them into each other. It's illegal to do them to other people's, but you just...
Yeah, it's a rite of passage. It's like hazing in a fraternity. It's like, all right, bro.
It is.
You gotta fuck the goat. You gotta go blow up a satellite. And then you're one of the boys.
Hey.
What?
Were you in a fraternity?
Huh? I didn't. Who said that? But yeah, no, it does seem like that's like the flex nuts you gotta do, is go blow up a satellite.
I think it's gonna end up getting rewritten, because while space trash isn't great, it's not a huge issue. But if we keep doing that, like if every country, Zimbabwe, whatever, is just blowing stuff up in space, people are going to be like, wait, stop.
What the fuck? Yeah.
It's going to turn into Wall-E, where it's just trash.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think, well, I don't want to get distracted. I was going to say, do you think that they're ever going to privatize cleaning up space junk?
Oh, 100. I think there are companies already doing it. They're not
just think of like oil spills, but in space, just like the big skimmers.
There's garbage companies,
or
like space energy. Garbage companies.
Use directed energy.
There are. So what they do is they do optical detection of trash, right, in space. And they have there's this one company called Surrey Technologies out of the UK. There's another company out of, I think it's an American company that did it too. But you go up, you detect the trash, you shoot a harpoon at it, you can reel it in, or you can shoot like this net at it that captures it, and then it just brings it to this disposal orbit. And I think the first person or the first company that can do that well is going to make so much money.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it is an issue, right? You get like micro impacts on the ISS that break things, and they break satellites. You get satellites that go defunct and like can't get out or start moving around on their own free will. There was one of the satellites, I think, built by Intelsat or Viasat, which is like a internet provider and TV dish sort of satellite company. They have this satellite out in like geosynchronous orbit, so it's pretty far away. If you don't know the different levels of orbit,
36,500 miles, right? Space station's at 220 for comparison.
36,000. I think it's kilometers, but space station, is at like 400, 500 kilometers. Sorry, everyone does space stuff in kilometers. There aren't miles in space.
Yeah, I use American units. Can't tell, bro.
But they had this anomaly, I think, caused by radiation, where the satellite just started freaking out. They couldn't command it. It started doing its own thing. They called it Zombie Sat because it died. Naturally. Something reignited it. It came back to life. It started broadcasting. It started moving, and they were just like, what do we do with that? Because there isn't a whole lot of stuff that high up that can deal with that. Yeah. Because most things are in the ISS orbit, or the typical range of like a couple hundred kilometers and miles off the ground.
Yeah.
So I think anyone who can go to space and do it cheaply and easily and reusable, like, gonna make bank. And I think it's just a matter of time. The reason it's not being pursued is because you have these companies that do space stuff, and there aren't a ton of grants where people are like, oh, prove space cleanup tech. It has to become a bigger issue before anyone starts throwing big money at it. Of course.
Yeah.
So I think that's what'll happen.
Well, I've thought about how, like, a big thing is going to be, instead of sending, like, kind of like CubeSats, how they unfold, but you put them in a little fucking square. Instead of building these, like, massive, like, space stations in orbits, eventually we're going to get to a point where we're just shooting up, like blocks of raw material that you would use for 3D printers. And then you throw up the 3D printer, and then you just beam up the schematics, which just exist as electrons, ones and zeros, and then you build it. So instead of sending up this big space station, you could send up, a couple, instead of like the Roadster, you would just send up a couple almost just like shells of like, that's plastic, that's steel, whatever, and then you plug them into the big printer. And so why not recycle space junk? Why not get all of it and then almost try to like melt it down into 3D printer fuel.
I think that could be smart. The power needed to do the melting might be intense, but I think
it would just come down to, is it profitable? Be like, it might take a lot of power, but we could make $100 billion. Like, okay, do it.
I just don't think right now there's money there, but there is money in 3D printing in space. It's like premature enough to where NASA and the government are like, hey, if you can do it, like, here's some money. There's a company called Made in Space where they have booms on the ISS, International Space Station, where they are 3D printing things and then just attaching them and like continuing to do that.
Oh shit!
So,
well, that guy Bigelow.
And there's also some research where they're just sending up components of satellites and then building them in space, because the hardest part about sending something to space is, can it survive the launch?
Yeah.
So if you just send up the components without the satellite package and then just
assemble
like 3D print something and mesh them together, well, it's like, I mean, you're not gonna. There's no force in space to bump it around.
Exactly.
Like, you're fine.
Not only that, you don't. Well, I had like a Lego city in my bedroom till I was literally like 17. I didn't grow up. I had a massive city, dude. I had fucking skyscrapers and shit. I never stopped. Again, going all out. There was no like, let's build some cars. I was like, if we're not building Metropolis, I'm not fucking playing. And like, I literally got a job and like saved up money and ordered like, I would order just like bulk pieces. I didn't even order like the sets. I would just order like pounds of like blocks. But when you order something, let's say you ordered, like, one of the things I had was the Statue of Liberty. It doesn't get shipped to you as the Statue of Liberty. You get a box full of pieces because it's a lot easier to ship it. And even if you could ship the whole thing, you would probably break in transit. Well, it's the same thing. You send up pieces.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so you're sending pieces to space rather than sending the constructed thing. So what if all the Lego pieces you could just say are space junk? Because it's all fucking like metal and shit.
I think that could happen. I think that would be a good way to do it. I think that's when we talk about like reusing stuff, it's really expensive for launches, and it's really expensive to keep pumping out satellites. So if you can keep something in orbit that just goes, collects them, gives them to someone, goes, collects them, gives them to someone,
well, then
I think that would be more profitable.
Because Elon's big thing is about being reusable. So you land them. What if you could still be reusable but not have to land them? Is reusable. Well, his big thing is if we land on Mars, we want to be able to move. That's where the reusability comes in. That's true. But I mean, you could still be reusable, but instead of landing in the ocean, just be like, put it in orbit. You know, put all the boosters and, you know, the empty gas tanks and shit.
For sure.
Yeah. I gotta pee again.
No thanks. I'm probably gonna give it like another few.
Yeah. Bam. So, yeah, because no one's ever launched something just to see how far it can go, and it makes sense because, well, there's always got to be, you know, who's funding it. There's got to be a reason behind it. We got to get some scientific data back.
Yeah.
So it would be a private launch, and it would just be, nope, there's no grants. There's no one can be like, you're wasting taxpayer money. Nope, this is my money. You know, it would just be. How would you go about that? Would you like slingshot? Is there just purely for how? I don't even care what direction it goes. We're not even going to a specific direction. It can be 360 in both axes. Just like. Find whatever slingshot compounded combo. Just, I don't give a fuck where it goes, and just wing it.
Think
not even to a specific star. Just wing it.
There is. I think the method you would do is you'd launch from Earth, right, and you just want to not use any fuel. So you would go, you'd slingshot, you'd go and you'd slingshot, and you'd keep slingshotting. And you'd be pushing, the way that orbits work, right, is it's like an ellipse. You have one focus here and another focus. And so the one focus is the sun. Mm-hmm. So you're going around, and as you slingshot, the orbit kind of like turns around the sun, but it also lengthens. And so you'd keep lengthening it and just stretching it and doing more and more slingshots until, I mean, you got to like an escape velocity. But in your sense, you'd want to do the fastest escape velocity of the solar system possible. So I think, I mean, honestly, I can look into that. That sounds kind of fun.
I think we should toy with that. Like, remove the barriers of, like, there doesn't have to be I mean, there will be data. Like, we're gonna get data coming back from it. There's, there's the was it the helio shock or helio pause? Like,
that's what it is.
there's interstellar winds. Like, there are things that would you get from it. It just I want to take off the sort of red tape, if you will, of like it's got to go by Jupiter because we got to get these pictures. We got to do this. And we want to send it towards that star. Like, what if you removed all those parameters of just
and you just banged it?
Just I don't give a fuck what it sends back. I don't give a fuck what it's carrying. We can put those gold plates on it. We don't have to. I don't give a shit. It doesn't have. We don't have to shoot it at Alpha Centauri. We don't even have to shoot it in the plane of the Milky Way. We can shoot it fucking out of it. I don't care. Just if you made your only parameters, how fast. And I want it to be leaving the solar system with, or not the solar system. I want it to be finished slingshotting. How could you think you could finish your slingshots within like a decade? Or do you think you'd have to go longer than that? Yeah.
For sure.
I want it on its like final like, and then, I want to use no fuel doing that, but I would want it to have some fuel, and I'd want it to just have like the most efficient like xenon ion thruster, something that's just something that can burn for like 100 years.
What you'd want to do is you do all your slingshots, and that's pretty fuel efficient, just with like trajectory correction on the way to each planet, right?
Yeah.
That you're slingshotting. And then you would literally just you'd want to launch like a satellite with a radio and all the core stuff, but really as big of a fuel thing as you can, just so you can just keep picking up speed forever.
I'd literally want it to have like a camera. We don't even have to send back like Hubble quality pictures. Just like good,
disposable.
Decent. Yeah, well, not disposable, you shithead. Just like but a decent. It doesn't need to be like. Not to the point where it's going to be like a weight priority. Just like a camera.
So you get radio, super minimal instruments.
Yeah.
And you just have a ton.
I'd want redundancy because it can't have the shit turning off when it's a trillion miles away. Redundancy.
Yeah.
Nuclear power.
And then a huge propellant.
Xenon ion. Something that's just slowly accelerating nonstop. For like, I want it to go past my lifetime. And just, I mean, who knows what you could discover if you actually just said like, let's see what the fuck happens. Like,
but it'd be nuts.
What if you could also throw some like
wall?
Yeah. it knocked down like the movie set, like the Truman Show.
Oh God.
Oh fuck.
Dude, tell people first thing you learn in aerospace engineering is how to key out a green screen that looks like the moon. First thing you learn.
Yeah, dude, you got it. Would you see if you launched this thing, would you throw a couple CubeSats on it?
I mean, you could. You don't. It's really what you want to do with it. CubeSats themselves aren't going to be able to propel themselves very far.
Oh, no, I wouldn't put any propellant on it. It would just be like kind of throw them in different directions. So it's almost like a shotgun scatter into the void.
Yeah. So what you could do, and this is a pretty fancy thing of research going on these days, people like money and doing this, is they did it with the Inspire Mars mission where you have like the CubeSats that fly by it, but what they want to do is they're still doing it with CubeSats, but you have this like mother CubeSat and then a swarm, and then they can have better instruments and a weaker radio, and then the radio communicates to the mother communicates down to Earth. And so you can eject CubeSats wherever, and they do whatever, but then they communicate to you because they're super tiny and low power.
Yeah, they just got to shoot back to the mothership.
And then it goes back to the mothership, goes back to Earth, and so that's what you could do. Yeah, you could totally do that.
I've wondered because like the best ground-based telescopes are obviously just like those, like that 500-meter one in like China or something. They're just insane. But one thing they've done, hasn't they've made like arrays where you can almost get the same image.
Yeah, synthetic aperture.
Could you do that with like CubeSats, and you could have a synthetic aperture, but you're out in the middle of nowhere, so you could literally have a synthetic aperture like 5 miles wide?
So that's
kilometers. Sorry.
That's the research lab that I work in at Georgia Tech, or that I worked in. Is working on one of the first CubeSat missions to try doing something like that, but for optics. So you could do this huge essentially like a radio array, a radio telescope array with CubeSats, and people have hypothesized doing that. But the problem becomes you need to keep them in place to like the nanometer, right?
Yeah.
But there's a mission being done at Georgia Tech called Visors. And what it is like essentially when you have telescopes in space are limited because you have to make something so long. There has to be a focal plane.
Mm-hmm.
So you have your lens, you have your reflector, you have your focal plane that it like reflects back to and hits. So what they're trying to do with 3 CubeSats is do this formation flying thing where you have 3 CubeSats in the line. The first one is like a big lens. It goes and then they all line up perfectly, right?
Oh shit.
And they're like a certain distance apart, like I think 50 meters apart each. So you're essentially launching 3 CubeSats for cheap that's doing the highest quality optical imaging of the sun that's ever been done, because you have an 100-meter telescope, because you line them all up perfectly and they all take data at the same time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wonder if you could do some sort of synthetic shit. Yeah. So once you get to like,
you could once
you get to like, you know, fucking like 10 times the distance from Pluto, you could send back some like insane data, but it would all be about, and it wouldn't even be about saving costs. It would all be about how fast can we get it going. So I would want the smallest, lightest, most durable, long-powered thing, but I'd literally have it put on top of like a Falcon Heavy or whatever the future is of that. I'd want this thing blistering. I'd want this thing fucking like a fucking goddamn just like a fastball with just some spice on it, just like zing it. Like I want this thing to go insane. Would ion thrusters be the way to go? Because then I just want it to continue. Because as we've talked
these
about,
days you just keep burning them,
just burn them forever, and it would just. Because I don't want it to just be finished after the slingshots.
Definitely not. You gotta cook it, dude.
Yeah, like we've talked about. It gotta go balls to the wall, or I don't want to do it. I want this thing to just.
Why go to every planet when you can get 10% the speed of light if you just keep on chugging?
Exactly, I'd do that, and I'd want to almost spit in the face of every serious satellite mission, because I would name it. It would be MemeSat. And I'd have you spearheading it, and it would just be, and every like whatever 10th image would just be like, you know, it'd be like Pepe, or it'd be like fucking me and the boys going past the helio shock, like, you know, like. But that's what it would be, and we'd be getting these messages for eternity. So long after we're dead, it'd still be like Big Chungus coming down, and it'd be like 2200 AD, and they'd be like,
it's like the golden record.
Yeah, but fuck the golden record, because golden record doesn't send shit back. Yeah, that's what it would be.
I'm down. Let's do it,
dude. No, but I've thought about that, because I guarantee you, doing it for just fun and seeing how fast, we would inadvertently make a massive discovery, because the biggest discoveries always come by accident.
Yeah.
So, and the only way to make an accident that no one else has made is go somewhere where no one else has gone, as far away as we can. So
yeah, dude, we'll scream through space so fast that something bad will happen.
I want this to set off an interstellar war. I want this to wipe out a planet and then be like, that was shots fired, and us be like, what? Like, literally,
we will inadvertently destroy the Earth.
That's the proverbial baseball that someone hit and it went through the neighbor's window.
Yeah,
the UFOs will come and it'll be like, you wiped out our home planet, and be like, what do you mean? Like, MemeSat? It's the last thing we saw before it struck through the core of our planet at 44% the speed of light. Like, oh Jesus.
What would be great, it goes so fast and hits some random thing so hard as it just opens a black hole.
Yeah.
And just,
or not only that, we would see the flash. Like, we would just
from Earth, another sun
we would just see the impact. Yeah, that would be the fucking, just like fucking supernovas and solar eclipses were like the basis of religious events. That would inspire some other distant, be like, you know, the cross in the sky. Like, it'd be like, that was MemeSat. But it would, it'd be meme. Yeah, but I'd make them address it as like MemeSat 69 or something. Like,
dude, I'm down. We'll probably have 69 up there soon enough.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
And then the 69 can be the big
boy.
Mac Daddy, dude. I'll take out
You know what it has
20
to have?
mortgages.
You know what it has to have? It's gotta have, the face has to be painted with Sonic, and the back has to be the butt cheeks.
We've gone full circle.
You don't even know how fast I can go. Don't underestimate how fast. We're gonna get this, dude. We're gonna get this fucker going. I want it to be going at least 5% the speed of light before I die.
All right, we'll do it.
All right,
we'll
bro.
do it.
All right, well, I'll let you go. But
that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
I like butt cheek Sonic getting tied back in.
Hell yeah, dude! It's all about closure. Let's set up another podcast because I legitimately want to do another. I want to talk about this. I'll do some research.
Dude, let's do it. Next Friday works for me, man. I'm
all right. Let me
fucking trapped inside as always.
Well, yeah. Well, so am I, because I'm also on Earth, so I know about the whole coronavirus thing. I have someone next.
Corona what?
I don't know. Have someone next Friday. I have Thursday or Saturday.
Let's do Thursday. Then.
I could see it's Friday the best. I could see if I could bump that guy.
No. I'm not that important. Let's do Thursday. Thursday's good, dude. I'm a kid. I'm a child.
Okay.
I don't care.
All right. Meme set. What do you want to do? What time? Anytime after 2 p.m. I'm fine. It doesn't have to be 2. It's just anytime after 2.
Yeah, let's do like 4. Let's call it 4.
That's fine.
Sweet.
Yeah. Meme set. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Fuck yeah. I'm gonna do some research on slingshots.
Interstellar.
Yeah.
Fucking slingshot.
Fuck yeah. You never underestimate how fast I can go.
That's what it'll say. We'll have it relay that meme,
in like
that
Morse
video
code,
back down to Earth as it passes Pluto.
People don't know how fast I can go. I never underestimate how fast I can go. That will be the screaming last voice of Earth. As we're devoured by coronavirus, our last voice will just be Sonic butt cheeks just booking it at a tenth the speed of light.
Don't.
All right, dude.
I'll see you, man. That was good.
All right. Peace, dude. Take care.
Yeah.
Peace.